There was a study a couple of years ago by a business school professor at University of London, and she did a massive study of American entrepreneurs and found that one-third of them had at some point in their life been diagnosed with something like dyslexia or some attentional learning disorder, right? And in that one-third was numbered among some of the most important and powerful and successful entrepreneurs in all of the world. Richard Branson, John Cisco, the guy who runs, John Chambers, the guy who runs Cisco, Charles Schwab, the guy who founded the powerful discount brokerage in America. The list goes on and on. Some of the most extraordinary, successful American and British and Western entrepreneurs are people who have profound difficulties reading and writing. Now, why is that? Is that just a coincidence? Or is there actually a connection between their disability as young people and their later success in life? I think the latter is true, because think about it. Think about if you're a young child and you're starting school and you're faced with this overwhelming disability that makes it very difficult for you to read and write. The two things you are required to do in school, right? There's two things that can happen to you. One is that you can fail. And most children who have severe learning disorders do fail. And if we go to any prison anywhere in the world, we will find lots of people with learning disabilities there, right? That's what happens to some people. They drop out and they get into trouble and they never... But there is another route that you can take if you have a learning disability, and that is that you can compensate. And what does it mean to compensate for dyslexia, for the inability to read or write? Well, it means that you have to be really good at building a team, right? How do you get through school if you can't read or write? Well, you put together a network of friends who are all around you, who do your work for you, right? That's how you do it. What else do you do if you can't read or write? Well, you learn how to problem solve. Why? Because your entire life is one big problem, right? If you're in a place that requires that you read and write and you can't read and write, that's a problem. You have to solve it. What else does it mean? Well, it means that you develop leadership skills, right? If the only way you can get through school is to have this big team of people help you, you'd better be a really good leader, right? What else? Well, it means you would develop really good oral communication skills. If you can't read or write, you'd better be a good talker, right? Because that's the only thing you've got going for you. So what happens to these kids who successfully compensate? Well, they spend their entire lives working on 4 key skills: leadership, problem solving, oral communication, and delegation. And what happens when they become adults and go out into the world? They have developed and been working their entire lives on the 4 skills that are absolutely crucial to being a successful entrepreneur. There's a case where compensation is a far more powerful strategy for learning than capitalization. If you talk to Richard Branson and you said, "Why do you think you've been as successful as you are?" one of the very first things he would tell you is, "Because I have dyslexia. Because I was forced to compensate for that kind of disadvantage." Right? So that's to me, is the second and crucial lesson of Fleetwood Mac, and that is that they did not succeed in spite of their difficulties. They succeeded because of their difficulties. And very often, when we look at what it takes to be creative and successful, we need to understand that there are real opportunities in difficulties. That when we are faced with constraints, those are not the kinds of things that defeat us. They're rather the kinds of things that give us an opportunity to learn in a way that we could not if we were simply surrounded by advantages.